Hi guys, I am coming to you from my car on this cold and snowy day to talk about my experience doing the Camino de Santiago, which, for those of you who don't know, is a very old medieval pilgrimage across Spain. It began in the year, I want to say 830 something, so it's pretty old. The whole thing is around 470 something miles. I went with my friend Grace, and we did the hike, the Camino Frances specifically. There's different Caminos, but we did the traditional route. So this video, I'm gonna make a few different videos about the Camino just because there's a lot, to think about and to experience, and it takes about a month to do it. But this video is specifically about the things that I wish I knew before doing the Camino de Santiago. The first, I think, is the most prominent for me, is that if I did it again, I would not do it in the time frame that I did it, which we got there in Spain in mid-October of 2025. And we finished in about mid-November. And yeah, if I could do it again, I would have done it a bit earlier, because hiking in November in Spain is not the greatest. I feel like as soon as November 1st hit, it immediately became really rainy, really cold, foggy, just dreary, and not the best for hiking. Because before that, I mean, mid-October to the end of October was really nice, actually. It was not too hot, not too cold, sunny most of the time. We didn't really experience any rain at all, which surprised me, because I had been in Spain before around that time period, and it was quite rainy. But we had really good weather until November 1st. As soon as that day hit, rainy, dreary, foggy. So yeah, if I could do it again, I would avoid November. I would go no later than October, for me at least. I know some people do winter Caminos, but that's a whole different ball game. But yeah, and then let me think. So the second thing that I wish I knew is the toll that it would take on the feet, mainly. Not only just my feet, but also just the tendons, your knees, your hips, your whole body is affected. And of course I knew, hiking 15 miles a day or so, obviously your feet are going to be pretty not in great shape. But me and my friend, we're pretty, we'd like to hike a lot, so, and we were already in pretty good shape. And so I wasn't too concerned. I had prepared by bringing a little first aid kit, blister kit, and everything. And I was fully prepared to get blisters. I actually did not get not a single blister somehow on the entire Camino. My friend got, I swear, a new blister every day, it seemed like. But my issue was because the first day was going up from, we started in France, so we started in Saint Jean de Pied-Port, and going up just straight all day until we hit the next town of Roncesvalles, because there was a hostel in between to split up that 15.5-mile day, but it was closed because it was autumn by that point. So we had to walk the full thing all straight up. It was intense. But what I learned is that my kind of feet problems came from kind of the tendons. My Achilles tendons just killed me the next day, and I had to do a lot of stretching, and it was terrible. I remember the second day of hiking was the most pain and discomfort that my feet were in. But yeah, for me it was really the tendons and ligaments that were very uncomfortable for me, especially doing a lot of uphill hiking. That really did a toll on me. And then my friend had entirely different issues. it was more like the soles of her feet and like the blisters and things like that. So I think it depends on how you walk, and then also the shoes that you wear, and things like that. But yeah, definitely prepare for a lot of foot pain to varying degrees and different types when doing the Camino de Santiago. The third thing that I kind of wish I knew, I wish I would have done more research on the different sections of the Camino, because in particular the Meseta, which is kind of in the middle, it's a big chunk in the middle of the hike. From what I only read a brief description of it. Like, I knew we were going to do the Pyrenees in the beginning, and then it kind of flattens out, and then it becomes the Meseta, and then towards the end it becomes more hilly and like green again. But what I was picturing of the Meseta, now once we hit the Meseta, it was November, so it was kind of not the best. But what I wish I knew is that the Meseta, at least for me and my friend, was really, really boring. There is absolutely nothing out here. Just fields, more fields, windy. Grace says she's getting prairie madness, and it's really after mile 3, after we went down that hill, it's just been this. The whole is really boring. Almost like 15 miles, I guess, of this. Really boring. It was not much to look at in comparison to like the beginning and the end of the Camino, which were just stunningly beautiful with the mountains, like the Pyrenees, and even the towns, I would say, were more picturesque in the beginning and the end. Because when we were in the Meseta, it's like a lot of farmland, and before we hit that area, I was thinking, I don't know, like more picturesque, sort of rolling countryside. But really it was, at least when we were there in, again, November, everything was dead. Like, the fields were just tilled up dirt and just like dead, like leftovers of the cornfields and things like that. And then the towns were really small and kind of like ghost towns almost, it seemed like, and lots of like farming industrial equipment, hay bales, not even really any animals, because in the beginning, going through like France and you know, the more mountainous part in the beginning, we had, you know, you had pastures and cows and horses and sheep, and it was really pretty. But yeah, like it just seemed for us at that time, the Meseta was very desolate, very not much going on at all. And we just had these, it's very easy to walk. Now that's the benefit, very easy to walk. You can knock out like 15, 16, 17 miles in a day so easily, just because it's so flat. You know, you might get a hill one here and there, but like super flat. So it's very easy to hike, but very, I would say, uninteresting. Now, I have heard in the summer it's prettier. So this is the Meseta, or the plains, from what I've read about, which is very flat. As you can see, we're currently on the top of a big hill, so you can see that pretty steep decline all the way down. And then it looks like it'll be easy from then on with how flat it is. So hopefully. You know, but I also feel like, because I do know some other people who have done the Camino in the summer, like July, and I have heard that going through there in July is another type of torment, just because it gets so hot there, the elevation is lower, there's no trees, so the sun's just going to be baking you right on the spot there. But so I feel, and what I learned is that a lot of people do skip the Meseta, because that is what my friend and I did after, I think, about 3 days of the Meseta. We were kind of done with it. So we are at a train station so we hiked into the town of Fromista yesterday, and we've been following this guide the whole time online, like an itinerary, like each day for hiking. And even the itinerary, whoever wrote it was like, yeah, so this next day is really boring. This next day is a long slog along the road. This next day is boring. This next day is an industrial zone. So we decided to skip all of that, and this is why we're at the train station. We're going to take a train straight to the city of Leon, which looks really pretty, like in the pictures. And there's more stuff to do there, and there's like this cool cathedral and stuff. So we're just gonna skip the boring stuff, because why not? I wanted to keep going for a little bit longer, a couple more days. I wanted to hit a couple more towns, but my friend was just over it, so we decided to take a train and go to the next kind of area out there. But so don't feel bad if you skip the Meseta, is the kind of message that I am preaching here. You know, if you do it, that's totally fine. Like, but you know, I at the time I learned, at least for myself, that, you know, what's more important, walking a certain number of miles, like total for the Camino, and seeing every single little thing, or skipping the parts that you think are really boring and not really worth it for the trip. Now, some people really like the Meseta because it is really quiet and really like open, and you have plenty of time to think and everything. But my friend and I, we just kind of wanted to see like something different, because we had been seeing the exact same landscape for the 3 days that we walked in the Meseta. So we wanted to move on from that. So the next thing I wish I knew is checking in for hostels and pensiones, which are private houses, pretty much, and hotels and things like that. My friend and I, we found that it was more pleasant for us to split the price of really cheap hotel rooms, which were usually in hostels. So you would go to a hostel and there'd be like the main room where there's like 10 people to the room, another room where there's maybe 6 people to a room, 4 people to a room, and then 2 people to a room. And of course the 2 people to a room are going to be more expensive. But between the 2 of us splitting it, it really wasn't that bad. So we found it to be worth it and just more comfortable, because after walking all day, we were, you know, kind of just tired. We wanted to rest, not have to deal with like a bunch of other people, shower, eat, you know. Have just some privacy to ourselves. So we did that for, I would say, the majority, like 90% or more of the Camino. We, you know, did that. We did stay in a hostel one time, and the other times we stayed in pensiones. The thing about that, and some of the hostels as well, the check-in process is really unusual, at least from like an American perspective. They had no front desk, so it's not like you can go in and like talk to someone and check in. You go there, well, so we always would book online on our phones ahead of time, so we would have like a reservation ahead of time before we got there. And they would give you a confirmation and then some instructions of how to check in yourself. And sometimes it was really complicated. So, for example, you would show up at this building, you know, in town, connected to all the other buildings. The door is locked in front of you, so there's no one like to unlock the door for you. And sometimes the instructions to unlock the door yourself are really weird and complicated. Sometimes it's not just like a key code, like, oh, punch in the 4-digit, you know, to let yourself in. Sometimes it's just like, I remember my friend one time had to hold her phone up to this like device on the wall, and it like buzzed the phone and let her in, which wasn't even clear in the instructions. It was kind of strange. But that, and then like you get into the building, and then you try to find your room, and then that door is locked, then you have to figure out how to find the way to get in through that door, and then sometimes there's a key, sometimes there's a code, sometimes there's this or that. You have to WhatsApp the person who owns the place, how do I get in? So definitely it can be complicated sometimes if you're not checking into like an actual hotel with an actual front desk to let you in. You know, so that, and especially after walking all day, that's a little bit frustrating. It's not ridiculously over the moon hard, but some of them are really like unusual like ways to check in. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Like, don't necessarily, like, if there's no front desk, you're gonna have to like figure things out. How do I get into this unit? So just to keep that in mind. And then the last thing that I wish I knew, and I eventually figured this out, my friend and I, but carry food with you, like in your backpack, because a lot, from what I read, and a lot of, because I read a lot of blogs and I watched a lot of videos about the Camino before I did this, but it still wasn't enough research. I should have done a bit more, especially for autumn, because in the fall, especially going into November, a lot of things are closed. A lot of hostels are closed, restaurants, stores, like the entire towns seem to be closed in November. For that reason, we ended up in a lot of unfortunate situations where we, would see this town on the map, and we would read like, oh, a lot of, there's like restaurants for pilgrims and stuff, we can stop and get a bite to eat. We get there, everything is closed. There's like not even a building with a bathroom that you could go in. Everything is locked and closed. And it's just such a bummer, to be honest. And from then on, because there's nothing worse than walking, you're like, 10 miles in, you want something good to eat, you want to rest for just like a little bit, and then it's closed. You just got to keep going. So what we learned, especially going through, like approaching the Meseta when it kind of gets drier and there's fewer trees and it's hotter, we definitely started packing more food and like snacks with us, like calorie dense snacks. I would carry like protein bars, fruit, like bananas and oranges, apples, even anything like salty, like potato chips, just to like get those electrolytes back in you. Because yeah, there's nothing worse than like hiking all day and you start feeling really tired just because you haven't gotten enough nutrients in you by that point. And yeah, I mean, you don't want to stretch yourself thin like that. It's not great. So yeah, and then my friend would carry like little kind of cookies and like anything that had like carbs or anything substantial in it. We obviously couldn't carry like a lot of food, and we didn't want to carry too much food because by the end of the day you are gonna come to a place that does have either a restaurant or a grocery store or something. But just for the middle there, because sometimes there are very remote stretches, I would say especially in the Meseta, you can go many miles and there's no place to even refill your water bottle, and things like that. So definitely a good idea to bring a certain amount of snacks and like food items with you, especially when going through the Meseta, and especially if you are hiking in like the off season, like November or through the winter, or even early spring, when a lot of places are closed, because otherwise you're gonna be just starving and miserable, going across Spain like that. So but yeah, those are kind of my 5 primary main things that I really wish I knew starting, like going into the Camino, rather than having to learn it along the way. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If any of you have done the Camino, I would love to hear kind of your experiences with mistakes or things you learned along the way, and things like that. But yeah, so I hope you enjoy the video, and stay tuned for more in the future. See you guys later.